What do we remember when we close our eyes and dream of ancient monsters? Do we see the shifting shadows of a single, isolated landmass? Or do the ghosts of the prehistoric Earth whisper from every forgotten corner of the globe? The film industry, particularly the production of feature films and animated blockbusters, has worldwide been significantly responsible for shaping the immense popularity of dinosaurs. We have been conditioned to believe in a very specific, carefully curated portrait of terror. The vast majority of these cinematic works were produced within the United States, and as a direct result, they predominantly showcase North American dinosaur species. Our collective nightmare of the ultimate apex predator has been geographically confined by the boundaries of Hollywood. The profound public interest in these ancient reptiles is largely due to the fact that numerous fossils have been discovered across North America. Furthermore, the United States is home to countless museums and sprawling exhibitions that are entirely dedicated to this prehistoric theme. We are completely familiar with the iconic carnivorous dinosaurs that relentlessly hunt the fleeing protagonists in films, animated cartoons, and video games. But what happens when we strip away the digital special effects, silence the dramatic orchestral music, and look purely at the fossilized evidence buried deep within the earth? Does the crown of the most dangerous dinosaur truly belong to this single continent? Before we dig into the scattered bones and the silenced roars of a world long dead, ask yourself how much of your memory is shaped by biological reality, and how much is merely an illusion crafted for our entertainment. Welcome to Prehistoric Entertainment, a sanctuary where the dust of millions of years is swept away to reveal the raw, unedited truth of our planet. I invite you to subscribe to our channel right now, not just to passively watch, but to awaken your mind to the echoes of a prehistoric reality that defies everything you thought you knew. And we also invite our viewers to actively give us feedback through likes and comments under our videos as we journey together into the abyss of time. Because Asia was physically connected to North America during the immense span of the dinosaur era, a great number of closely related species lived across both of these vast continents. However, some incredibly unique dinosaur fossils have been unearthed strictly within the borders of the United States, Mexico, or Canada. Among the most characteristic and culturally ingrained North American predatory dinosaurs is the Tyrannosaurus Rex, arguably the most famous carnivore of them all. Although there are lingering assumptions and quiet theories suggesting that these specific Rex species might have also stalked the landscapes of Asia, scientists have made absolutely no findings so far that can confirm this theory. Every single fossil of this terrifying dinosaur has been discovered exclusively in the United States. To stand beneath its reconstructed skeletal frame is to feel profoundly and unsettlingly insignificant. This theropod, a term defining a predatory dinosaur that walked upright on two legs, could reach a staggering height of up to 4 meters and stretch to an astonishing length of up to 13 meters, while possessing a body mass weighing up to 9 tons. They reigned violently at the very end of the dinosaur era, approximately 66 to 68 million years ago. There are countless theories regarding the exact appearance and the daily lifestyle of this magnificent giant. Most scientists, however, share the view that this dinosaur was a highly active hunter, equipped with an exceptionally developed sense of smell and incredibly sharp vision, perfectly adapted to launch devastating ambush attacks on its unsuspecting prey. Its primary weapons were not its small forelimbs, but rather its massive, bone-crushing jaws filled with large, razor-sharp teeth, entirely supported by immensely strong neck muscles. These specialized muscles allowed the beast to grasp its prey tightly, inflicting fatal, tearing wounds from which there was no hope of escape. But does sheer size and raw biting power automatically crown it the most dangerous entity to ever exist? The shadow of the Tyrannosaurus Rex is overwhelmingly vast, but it did not fall upon an empty continent. During the long reign of the dinosaurs, many other distinct predators stalked the North American landscape. Take a moment to envision the Acrocanthosaurus. This bipedal predator hunted across the territory of the modern-day United States around 112 to 125 million years ago. Its most distinctive and alarming anatomical feature was a series of remarkably high neural spines projecting from its vertebrae. Initially, researchers examining these bizarre bones hypothesized that the dinosaur possessed a grand sail on its back, perhaps suggesting a distant evolutionary relationship with the massive African Spinosaurus. Today, however, the scientific consensus has dramatically shifted, operating on the assumption that these elongated spinal structures served instead to support massive back musculature, forming a thick, terrifying hump. Reaching lengths of up to 11 meters and weighing over 4 tons, the first fossils of this species were discovered in the state of Oklahoma, where the remains of 2 separate individuals were carefully pulled from the ancient rock. At this time, the species received its fitting name, which translates directly to the lizard with high spines. These towering spines could reach a height of up to 35 centimeters. When it walked, stalking through the ancient plains and light forests, the head of the Acrocanthosaurus was angled slightly forward, driven by an insatiable hunger. The front and hind legs of this dinosaur were relatively short, but they were armed with long, incredibly powerful claws designed to tear through flesh and sinew. Was this hunched, heavily muscled predator somehow less lethal than the famous kings that followed millions of years later? And what of the colder, misty forests to the far north? The Albertosaurus is celebrated today as the undisputed Canadian symbol among carnivorous dinosaurs, with the vast majority of its fossils having been unearthed directly in Canada. Living several millions of years before its much larger and far more famous relative, the Tyrannosaurus, early scientists initially dismissed the Albertosaurus, mistakenly believing it to be merely a smaller, local subspecies of the bloodthirstiest dinosaur in Earth's history. Yet, despite their superficial physical similarities, the Albertosaurus was ultimately recognized as a distinctly separate, terrifying species in its own right. Reaching lengths of up to 8 meters, their weight varied depending on scientific estimates, falling somewhere between 1 and 2.5 tons. It is deeply suspected by researchers that these highly efficient carnivores hunted together in coordinated packs, deliberately attacking massive herbivorous sauropods that would have been impossible to bring down alone. Living in the dense forests of Canada roughly 70 million years ago, they possessed up to 70 teeth in their long, terrifying jaws. A stark and fascinating contrast to the larger tyrannosaurids that actually possessed far fewer teeth. Does the true definition of unimaginable danger lie in the solitary, overwhelming strength of a lone giant? Or rather, in the coordinated, tooth-filled terror of a pack moving as a single, lethal mind through the ancient woods. As we wander further through the dusty corridors of paleontological time, we quickly realize that terror does not always arrive in a gargantuan, earth-shaking form. Sometimes, the most unsettling danger comes in a size so unexpectedly small, it forces us to completely redefine what we fear. Consider the fiercely agile Allosaurus. This predator was one of the very first scientifically discovered dinosaur species, with the initial find appearing in the form of a single finger bone and a few vertebrae dating back to the second half of the 19th century. Later, numerous Allosaurus bones were discovered across more than 10 states in the United States, though this nightmare was absolutely not limited to North America. Allosaurus bones have also been uncovered in Portugal and Tanzania. These giants populated our planet during the Jurassic era, roughly 155 to 145 million years ago. The name Allosaurus translates ominously to different lizard. It was a typical theropod, heavily built with powerful hind legs, a notoriously short neck, and a massive head capable of immense destruction. Its total length is estimated by various researchers to be anywhere from 10 to 13 meters, standing at a height of 3 to 4 meters, and weighing up to 2.5 tons. Most of these carnivorous theropods ruthlessly dominated the west coast of what is now the United States, leaving the eastern territories largely to the unknown. However, one of the exceptionally rare inhabitants of the eastern regions of the continent was the Apalachiosaurus. Its haunting remains were discovered across the states of Alabama, North Carolina, and South Carolina. All findings of this particular dinosaur are highly fragmented. Currently, scientists possess only a lower jaw, some skull parts, individual scattered vertebrae, and partially preserved pelvic and leg remains. Yet, solely from these shattered fragments, the approximate size and appearance of the Apalachiosaurus could be meticulously reconstructed. Its length was approximately 7 meters, its height reached up to 3 meters, and its weight sat comfortably under 600 kilograms. Some researchers hypothesize that the discovered remains actually belong to juvenile individuals, meaning that the true, terrifying size of the adult dinosaur might have been much larger. These mysterious dinosaurs lived roughly 77 million years ago in the Appalachian Mountains, after which they were aptly named. But let us look closer to the ground, where the shadows move with alarming speed. Discovered in 1995 in the Canadian province of Alberta by the dedicated researcher Wayne Marshall, a small, highly aggressive predator was uncovered and officially received the name Atrociraptor, which translates directly to savage robber. To this day, this remains the absolute only find scientifically assigned to this specific species. The scientific community currently holds only a few precious jaw fragments, upper jaws, incredibly sharp teeth, and small scattered bones. The estimated physical size of this dinosaur was extremely small. It weighed no more than 15 kilograms and reached a total length of only 2 meters. Living relentlessly toward the very end of the Cretaceous period, roughly 66 to 70 million years ago, the Atrociraptor possessed a notably short skull, moved swiftly on its powerful hind legs, and likely possessed a distinct, prominent coat of feathers, much like many of its raptor cousins. And then, there is the deceptive innocence of the Bambiraptor. This incredibly small predator received its charming name in direct reference to the young fawn from the famous Disney animated film, primarily because the only found specimen of this species happens to be a juvenile individual. The story of its unearthing is remarkable. In 1993, a 14-year-old nature researcher named Wes Linster was searching for ancient fossils near a national park in the state of Montana when he miraculously discovered a tiny skeleton that is preserved to an astonishing 95%. Initially, the scientific community believed the find was simply a young velociraptor, but in the year 2000, a dedicated group of scientists conducted a much more precise examination of the skeleton and finally came to the conclusion that it is an entirely independent dinosaur species. The juvenile specimen found is approximately 90 centimeters long. The length of a fully grown adult individual is estimated to be roughly 1.3 meters. The weight of this diminutive dinosaur did not exceed 5 kilograms, but here lies the true terror. The brain of the Bambiraptor exhibits a proportional size remarkably similar to that of modern birds. It is entirely possible that this highly cognitive creature lived high up in the ancient trees and could even glide effortlessly over short distances. Such an active, complex lifestyle inherently promotes the rapid development of biological intelligence. The perfectly preserved specimen is dated to an age of roughly 72 million years, meaning that the Bambiraptors lived and hunted right near the apocalyptic end of the Cretaceous period. In our deep exploration today, we have described only a tremendously small fraction of the predatory animals known to science that lived and hunted in North America during the violent time of the dinosaurs. Some of these creatures are intimately known to the broad public, while others remain whispered secrets known only by specialized scientists and enthusiastic dinosaur fans. The exact, staggering number of biological species that lived and died over such unfathomably long periods of time on this single continent remains a massive, unsolvable riddle whose ultimate solution we will probably never experience. At the time of the dinosaurs, the continents as we know them today were situated in vastly different locations across the globe, and every single continent harbored its own distinctly terrifying species of predatory dinosaurs. Under the surface of what we think we know, the Earth hides infinite variations of death. Are you prepared to cross the vanishing borders of the ancient world and discover what monstrous shapes the illusion of safety has hidden from us? Do we truly believe that the vast, churning oceans of today have always stood as impassable walls, forever separating the nightmares of the ancient world into neat, isolated categories? To understand the true nature of prehistoric terror, we must completely dismantle the modern maps that strictly dictate our understanding of global geography. During the immense and incomprehensible span of the dinosaur era, the continents as we currently recognize them were actively shifting, situated in vastly different locations across the globe, meaning that every single continent harbored its own deeply unique and terrifying species of predatory dinosaurs. Because the immense landmass of Asia was physically connected to North America during the time of the dinosaurs, a great number of closely related, highly lethal species lived freely across both of these monumental continents. The boundaries of life and death were entirely fluid, allowing the genetic blueprints of perfect killers to spread, adapt, and morph into bizarre new shapes. In Europe and Asia, a spectacularly diverse variety of predatory dinosaur species existed, creatures that remain entirely unique and endemic to these specific continents, casting a long, dark shadow over the evolutionary history of the Eastern Hemisphere. Let us slowly wade into the murky, mist-shrouded wetlands of ancient Europe, where the boundary between the earth and the water offered absolutely no sanctuary. In the year 1983, buried deep within the damp soil of England, several bones of a previously completely unknown dinosaur were miraculously discovered. Among these fragmented ancient remains was a massive, terrifyingly oversized claw, a biological weapon of such distinct and brutal design that it immediately gave this newly discovered dinosaur its permanent name, baryonyx, a word that translates ominously to heavy claw. This formidable dinosaur, hailing from the early Cretaceous period, shares a deep, violent evolutionary bloodline with the gigantically terrifying Spinosaurus. In fact, thanks to the monumental and groundbreaking discovery of the baryonyx, dedicated scientists were finally able to far better determine the physical appearance and the daily lifestyle of the Spinosaurus itself. Imagine a creature that did not solely stalk the open plains, but instead haunted the water's edge. This specialized fish-eating dinosaur lived and hunted relentlessly near the shores of smaller bodies of water scattered across the ancient British Isles and the territories of modern-day Spain. It reached an impressive length of 7.5 meters, yet despite its terrifying length, it weighed no more than 200 kilograms, suggesting a highly agile, streamlined frame perfectly adapted for explosive, lightning-fast strikes into the water. How does it feel to imagine a predator waiting perfectly still in the shallows, a silent silhouette of death with a heavy claw poised to plunge into the depths? Yet, not all European hunters were massive, water-dwelling giants. Some were incredibly small, frantically swift shadows darting through the undergrowth. Consider the Compsognathus. This small, highly agile dinosaur lived in the geographical regions that we now know as modern-day Germany and France, and its initial fossil discoveries date all the way back to the middle of the 19th century. It possessed the typical, lightweight appearance of a theropod, and was highly likely covered entirely in a layer of primitive feathers. This dinosaur reached a total length ranging from only 100 to 125 centimeters, and it weighed no more than 2.5 to 3.5 kilograms. But do not let its diminutive size deceive you into a false sense of security. Hidden within the small mouth of this predatory dinosaur were 68 incredibly sharp, curved teeth, designed to effortlessly pierce and grip struggling flesh. Thanks to its remarkably long, bird-like hind legs, the Compsognathus was fully capable of achieving incredibly high running speeds across the prehistoric forest floor. The primary diet of this frantic little killer consisted mainly of small lizards and various insects. Is danger truly measured merely by the massive tonnage of a creature? Or can it also be found in the relentless, terrifying speed of a microscopic killer hiding perfectly within the dense ferns? As we drift further eastward, leaving behind the damp European archipelagos and crossing over into the vast arid expanses of the Asian continent, the sheer biological diversity of discovered dinosaur species stands absolutely in no way inferior to the famous paleontological findings unearthed in North America. However, Because these spectacular Asian species are unfortunately not nearly as widely recognized in modern popular culture, it would literally require countless hours and multiple dedicated episodes to fully introduce every single predator that stalked the sprawling Asian continent. We must carefully select the ghosts we choose to awaken. Let us gaze deeply upon the Tarbosaurus, this massive, distant, and deeply terrifying relative of the infamous Tyrannosaurus. Rex lived violently toward the bitter end of the Cretaceous period in the unforgiving territories we now know as modern-day Mongolia and China. It is widely and respectfully considered by paleontologists to be one of the absolute most famous and thoroughly researched Asian predatory dinosaurs in existence. This monumental giant stretched an awe-inspiring 9 to 12 meters in length and carried a staggering, ground-shaking weight of up to 5 tons. But within the crushed, fossilized bones of these seemingly heartless monsters, we occasionally find profound echoes of unexpected tenderness that force us to fundamentally question our understanding of their psychological complexity. The emotional, deeply touching story of parental love in the dinosaur era might very well be based on a profoundly poignant paleontological discovery made in the year 1948 by a Soviet expedition braving the harsh, desolate conditions of the Gobi Desert. There, carefully buried together in the ancient, unforgiving sands, scientists discovered a nearly perfectly complete skeleton of a fully grown adult dinosaur lying intimately next to the fragile, much smaller remains of an approximately 1 meter long juvenile. Does the inherent capacity to fiercely nurture, to profoundly protect, and to ultimately mourn exist even within a heart that aggressively pumps cold reptilian blood through a 5-ton killing machine? If a monster is capable of love, does that make its wrath even more terrifying? Our modern cinema-fed nightmares are overwhelmingly painted with dull scales and thick, leathery reptilian skin, but the absolute truth, completely hidden within the ancient stone of Asia, is far softer, infinitely more colorful, and deeply, bizarrely unsettling. In the year 2012, in the northeastern regions of China, the remarkably well-preserved remains of a small, astonishingly unique, 4-winged dinosaur were accidentally discovered. This fascinating aerodynamic species is closely related to the already widely recognized Microraptor, yet it is significantly larger in its overall physical dimensions. The creature, named Changyuraptor, is currently acknowledged by the global scientific community as the absolute largest known dinosaur to have all 4 of its limbs completely covered with fully developed, complex feathers. It measured just over 1 meter long and weighed a mere 4 kilograms, making it an incredibly light and hollow-boned entity. Researchers heavily suspect that the highly adapted Changyuraptor was fully capable of active, powered flight, or at the absolute very least, possessed the phenomenal ability to glide silently and gracefully from tree to tree in the high canopy. It lived its breathtaking aerial life roughly 120 to 125 million years ago in the incredibly dense forests of the Liaoning province, a legendary geological region where numerous beautifully feathered dinosaurs of vastly different species and widely varied sizes have been miraculously preserved in the volcanic ash. Can you successfully conceptualize a raptor, a direct biological cousin to the terrifying scaly beasts of Hollywood blockbusters, swooping down from the high canopy on 4 heavily feathered wings, silently delivering immediate death from above before a single shadow even falls upon the forest floor? And from that very same magical time capsule geological formation in China, another incredibly extraordinary specimen from the Jurassic period emerges to completely and permanently shatter our rigid preconceptions of what a dinosaur is supposed to look like. This peculiar, deeply bizarre feathered dinosaur was astonishingly tiny. Its entire length, comprehensively including its extravagant tail feathers, was incredibly less than 45 centimeters, with the bizarre tail itself accounting for an astonishing 25 centimeters of that total length. The scientifically estimated weight of the delicate Epidexipteryx sits at a minuscule 162 grams, making it lighter than a modern-day pigeon. It is widely and firmly believed by paleontological researchers that this fragile creature was a highly adapted tree dweller, sustaining its fleeting nervous life by feeding on a specialized diet consisting entirely of spiders, small lizards, and various insects hiding within the bark. However, its long tail feathers differ drastically and fundamentally from the complex aerodynamic feathers of modern birds, which typically consist of a strong central shaft with laterally branching, interlocking structures. This highly unusual, almost entirely alien dinosaur possessed instead bizarre, elongated, thread-like tail feathers, the exact biological purpose of which remains deeply mysterious and not entirely clarified by modern science. Some dedicated scientists logically theorize that these elongated, strange feathers primarily helped the creature in balancing delicately upon dangerously thin branches high above the treacherous forest floor, while other researchers fiercely believe they served absolutely no practical aerodynamic function whatsoever, and were utilized exclusively as a vibrant biological ornament for visual display and complex mating rituals. When we look endlessly at these delicate feathered ghosts permanently etched into the Chinese shale, trapped forever in the rock like pressed flowers, we are profoundly forced to ask ourselves, how many incredibly beautiful, utterly terrifying, and completely incomprehensible forms of life have been swallowed forever by the merciless abyss of geological time? If a prehistoric killer can be as physically light as a handful of dry autumn leaves and majestically draped in ornamental, thread-like ribbons, what other horrific and breathtakingly beautiful biological secrets are currently sleeping silently beneath the vast, undisturbed soil of Eurasia? What happens to the memory of the Earth when an entire continent completely forgets its own ancient past? When we look upon the modern landscapes of the world, we are often deceived by the dry, silent illusions of the present moment. Today, a massive, overwhelming portion of Australia is heavily covered by deeply unforgiving, rocky deserts where the sun relentlessly bakes the cracked earth. It is a harsh, arid environment where survival is a daily struggle against the brutal elements. But if we carefully peel back the parched layers of geological time, a completely different, almost unrecognizable world violently emerges from the dust. During the deep and unfathomably ancient time of the dinosaurs, these now barren, gigantic territories consisted of vibrant, impossibly green jungles and were heavily, dangerously swampy. Can you hear the slow, rhythmic breathing of the primordial earth hidden beneath the modern dunes? These dense, suffocating prehistoric swamps were populated by highly characteristic dinosaurs of that specific, humid era, primarily including classical, long-necked, plant-eating sauropods that moved like living mountains, as well as two-legged predators of vastly different sizes that actively and mercilessly hunted them through the endless fog. Dinosaur fossils are found in the most remarkably diverse and sometimes completely surprising places scattered across our planet, and occasionally such profound discoveries are quite astonishing, challenging everything we thought we understood about the hierarchy of the prehistoric food chain. Sometimes, the most terrifying ghosts do not leave behind their crumbling, fossilized bones. Instead, they leave behind the exact heavy moment of their passing, a phantom step frozen forever in the ancient mud. Deep underground, entirely removed from the light of the sun, coal miners working in the subterranean dark of several Australian states made a discovery that completely shatters our modern timeline of terror. Looking up at the damp ceilings of these deeply excavated coal mines, already since the middle of the last century, they saw the impossible, the massive inverted footprints of a wandering giant. For decades, these silent impressions hung in the absolute darkness, completely unanalyzed and deeply misunderstood, watching over the miners like the omens of a forgotten god. But when paleontologist Anthony Romilio of the University of Queensland eventually conducted a thorough, meticulous analysis of these ancient impressions, the astonishing results were a genuine, absolute sensation within the global scientific community. The dedicated researchers now firmly believe that these enormous tracks belong to a giant, terrifying theropod that stalked heavily through the Australian swamps right at the bitter end of the Jurassic period, roughly 150 to 165 million years ago. To truly comprehend the agonizing magnitude of this unknown beast, we must realize a deeply unsettling truth. This monstrous creature existed almost 100 million years before the very first Tyrannosaurus even took its first breath upon the earth. The footprints themselves are a testament to unimaginable size. Most of the hind leg impressions measure between 50 and 60 centimeters long, but the absolute largest of these tracks reach an agonizing, deeply terrifying length of 80 centimeters. From these silent, muddy echoes in the stone, scientists concluded that the dinosaur could have possessed a maximum physical length of roughly 10 meters. Although the famous North American Tyrannosaurus Rex arguably surpasses this ancient Australian dinosaur in sheer overall size, this unnamed, shadowy phantom was a genuine, undisputed giant for its specific time. It is highly possible that this creature was the absolute largest land predator of that entire geological epoch, dominating a world completely unaware of the monsters that would evolve millions of years later. Furthermore, by carefully calculating the distance between the chilling tracks, researchers determined that its moving speed could have reached up to 35 kilometers per hour, a truly remarkable and terrifyingly swift velocity for a dinosaur of such massive, earth-shaking proportions. It is heavily suspected by researchers that this previously little researched, massive carnosaur was a direct relative of the infamous Allosaurus, meaning that the ruthless representatives of this specific biological family successfully occupied the absolute top tier of the global food pyramid at the end of the Jurassic and the beginning of the Cretaceous period worldwide. Are we prepared to accept that our understanding of the prehistoric apocalypse is so fundamentally flawed that the greatest terrors were already ancient history long before our favorite cinematic monsters were even born? Recently, it became clearly known through these subterranean shadows that Australia truly had a worthy, terrifying competitor to legendary monsters like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Tarbosaurus, or the massive Giganotosaurus. When the Earth does finally decide to yield its physical bones, it rarely offers a complete, peaceful picture. Rather, it provides a shattered puzzle of violence and sudden death. The absolute best researched predatory dinosaur that lived and hunted in Australia during the immense span of the dinosaur era is the fearsome Australovenator. Its name translates ominously and simply to the Australian hunter, a title earned through millions of years of perfectly evolved lethality. It currently stands as one of the absolutely largest carnivorous dinosaurs from the Cretaceous period that have ever been found on this isolated, heavily weathered continent. The precious, fragile fossils that scientists currently have at their disposal to study are approximately 95 million years old. From these scattered fragments, it is deeply assumed by researchers that this deadly dinosaur reached a maximum physical length of about 6 meters, a towering height of up to 2 meters, and an incredibly dense weight ranging somewhere between half a ton and a full, devastating ton. The story of its unearthing is a masterpiece of prehistoric tragedy. In the year 2005, in the sweltering heat of the Australian state of Queensland, a massive thigh bone of a gigantic sauropod was suddenly discovered. The extensive, meticulously conducted excavations that followed immediately led to the breathtaking discovery of the beautifully preserved remains of this plant-eating giant, an animal belonging to the monumental group of titanosaurs. But it was not found alone. Buried intimately alongside the gentle giant, locked in a permanent, fossilized embrace of predator and prey, was a large, terrifying carnivorous theropod. Both of these ancient skeletons were extensively examined in 2009 by a dedicated research team under the expert guidance of paleontologist Scott Hocknull. As they brushed away the dirt of millennia, the carnivore slowly revealed itself to be a previously completely unknown species, and it instantly became the absolute best preserved skeleton of a flesh-eating dinosaur ever found on the entire Australian continent. The excited researchers suddenly possessed the lower jaw, the devastating front and hind legs, the ribs, as well as individual razor-sharp teeth and smaller scattered bones. Initially, this lethal new dinosaur was prematurely classified as a direct relative of the gigantic Carcharodontosaurus and assigned to that corresponding family, but later, deeper scientific analysis firmly placed it into the terrifying family of the Megaraptorans. This profound biological discovery also magically enabled scientists to accurately classify some earlier, deeply confusing fossil finds. For instance, a mysterious ankle bone that was discovered in 1988 and initially completely misidentified as belonging to a smaller subspecies of the Allosaurus was suddenly recognized as an integral part of a previously unknown species that actually served as an ancient ancestor of the Australovenator. What makes a predator truly unstoppable? Is it merely the crushing force of its jaw, or is it the terrifying anatomical precision of its anatomy? A striking, incredibly terrifying characteristic of the Australopithecus is its extremely mobile, highly articulated front legs, which were considered by paleontologists to be its absolute primary weapon of destruction. While other colossal predators evolved massive, heavy skulls at the profound expense of their completely useless shrunken arms, this Australian nightmare evolved differently. The radius and ulna bones of this predator could move completely independently of each other, functioning in a highly complex biomechanical manner, heavily similar to the wings of modern-day birds. The deadly front limbs of the Australopithecus could bend sharply at an agonizing, unnatural angle ranging from 66 to 144 degrees, allowing it to reach out, grasp, and pull struggling prey violently into its chest. Furthermore, it possessed highly mobile, flexible fingers equipped with flesh-tearing claws. It is heavily assumed by researchers that the terrifying footprints of this specific, agile giant can still be found perfectly preserved in the famous national park of running dinosaurs in Queensland. When you imagine the deep, shadowy jungles of ancient Australia, do not merely picture the slow, lumbering giants, but envision a sleek, perfectly engineered assassin moving with the terrifying grace of a bird of prey, its arms outstretched and ready to embrace the end of a life. And then there are the fragmented whispers, the ghosts that barely left a trace upon the earth, teasing us with their incomplete existence. Have you ever considered how little we truly know about the vast majority of life that has walked this planet? Consider the enigmatic Raptor. This is an incredibly little-known species of Australian dinosaur from the violent Cretaceous period, remaining a complete mystery known to modern science through an absolutely singular, deeply lonely find made at the very beginning of the 20th century and formally described in 1932. This entire terrifying existence is summarized by nothing more than a single metacarpal bone discovered near Wollaston in New South Wales. Yet, the complex structure of this single finger joint allowed highly skilled scientists to assign this newly discovered dinosaur to the lethal theropods of the Megaraptoran family. Although the name Raptor translates ominously to robber, absolutely nothing is known by scientists about its daily lifestyle, its complex behavioral patterns, or its specific diet. By comparing this solitary, tragic bone with a highly similar bone from the much better understood Australopithecus, researchers terrifyingly estimated that this predator could have been up to 9 meters long, 3 meters high, and reached an immense weight of up to 3 tons. Some researchers heavily doubt this, believing the bone might just belong to an incredibly ancient Australopithecus, seeing as the age of this single fossil is 10 million years older than any previously known remains of that specific predator. Similarly, the Ozraptor haunts the Australian Jurassic as a singular, deeply incomplete shadow. This incredibly mysterious dinosaur is the absolute only known carnivorous species that geologically lived in Australia during the distant Jurassic period, and it is known solely through an incomplete, heavily fragmented hind leg bone. This single, desperate find, whose age is dated to a staggering 175 to 180 million years old, miraculously allowed scientists to determine a few terrifying characteristics of the beast. They estimate that the Ozraptor was about 3 meters long, heavily suspecting that it was remarkably slender in its build and could achieve a very high running speed, remarkably similar to the vastly better researched Dromaeosaurus that hunted far away in North America. The very origin of its scientific name is a bizarre, colloquial nod to an entirely modern Australian lizard species. And finally, there is the Walgetosuchus, an ancient echo so faint that many prominent scientists deeply doubt its actual existence as a truly independent species. Everything we think we know about this phantom originates entirely from the careful conclusions of researchers who examined a single microscopic fragment of a tail vertebra, measuring an impossibly small 63 millimeters long. Based purely on this tiny fragment, scientists nervously hypothesized that the Walgetosuchus was a distant relative of either the Ornithomimus or the terrifying Allosaurus, unable to even agree if the creature was a vicious predator or a peaceful omnivore. There is absolutely no precise information regarding its physical appearance or its true size. The absolute only thing there is no doubt about is that the owner of this tiny fossilized vertebra lived at the very beginning of the Cretaceous period in Australia. How many absolute monsters, how many apex predators and perfect biological killing machines have walked across the shifting continents of our world, only to completely dissolve into the eternal void of time, leaving behind nothing more than a single piece of bone or a vanishing footprint in the dark? What happens to the biological memory of a landscape when a vibrant, steaming paradise is violently swallowed by an eternal, crushing wasteland of ice? Today, the South Pole of our Earth is an almost entirely hostile, deeply unforgiving ice desert, where life struggles desperately to merely cling to the frozen margins. But what if the endless sheets of blinding white are simply a temporary veil, heavily concealing the breathing, bleeding history of a forgotten world? During the deep, unfathomable time of the dinosaurs, the isolated continent of Antarctica was actually located significantly closer to the Earth's warm equator and was heavily, lushly covered by dense tropical jungles. Exactly like all the other major, sprawling continents of the ancient Earth, it was densely and loudly populated by a tremendous, breathtaking variety of representatives from countless different animal and plant species. Yet, because of the exceptionally harsh, deeply brutal modern climate and the miles of incredibly thick, impenetrable ice layers crushing the ancient bedrock, almost absolutely nothing is known by modern scientists about the Mesozoic dinosaurs of Antarctica. It remains fiercely guarded, standing as the southernmost and undisputedly the absolute least explored continent on the entire face of the Earth. The dedicated paleontologists of our modern era only truly began to seriously and systematically explore the unforgiving, freezing landscapes of Antarctica a few incredibly short decades ago. To actively and desperately search for the highly fragile, fossilized remains of ancient living creatures and delicate prehistoric plants buried deeply under meters of solid, unyielding ice and blinding snow is a remarkably difficult, agonizingly slow, and profoundly expensive endeavor. Therefore, only a deeply frustrating, incredibly small number of unique dinosaur species have been successfully discovered so far that actually inhabited this frozen, isolated landmass. However, the profound, earth-shattering discoveries that have already been carefully made by freezing hands point directly to an absolutely remarkable, breathtaking diversity of rich animal and plant life existing vibrantly within the Mesozoic era of Antarctica. At the very beginning of the glorious, violent dinosaur age, this vast, heavily forested continent was an integral, massive part of the enormous supercontinent known as Gondwana, a colossal, unbroken landmass that deeply united all the modern continents of the Southern Hemisphere into a single, continuous theater of existence. By the violent, fiery end of the Cretaceous period, the tectonic plates had shifted, and Antarctica had completely separated itself geologically from the massive land masses of Australia, Africa, and South America, although it still lay somewhat closer to the Earth's life-giving equator than its current, profoundly frozen position. Even though the estimated average annual temperature rested at a relatively mild 13 degrees Celsius, these ancient, heavily adapted dinosaurs lived in deeply unsettling alien conditions where a completely lightless polar night forcefully reigned over the silent land for several agonizing, unending months. Close your eyes and genuinely imagine the profound psychological terror of a primeval forest completely swallowed by absolute, suffocating darkness. How does an apex predator silently stalk its nervous prey when the sun completely abandons the sky for a quarter of the year? It is deeply and logically assumed by researchers that both the ancient, towering plants and the terrifying predatory animals developed highly specialized, incredible biological adaptations that effectively allowed them to successfully survive for vastly extended periods, entirely without the nourishing light of the sun. Because of the notably cooler, damp, and deeply shadowed climate, many of these formidable Antarctic dinosaurs were highly likely covered entirely in a thick, insulating layer of complex feathers. Some forward-thinking, brilliant scientists furthermore heavily suspect that these isolated, terrifying creatures might have been entirely warm-blooded, a massive, necessary evolutionary advantage required to hunt efficiently in the creeping, relentless chill of the long night. Given the terrifying reality of the endless polar night, these isolated dinosaurs might have powerfully developed the incredible, highly complex biological ability for advanced night vision, or perhaps evolved other entirely unknown, sophisticated survival strategies simply to endure these exceptionally harsh, utterly lightless conditions. Perhaps, waiting silently in the freezing, pitch-black dark, some of these massive monsters could even safely enter a profound state of deep hibernation to successfully survive the most brutally unfavorable, starving times of the year. For a massive, extended portion of the Mesozoic era, the forests of Antarctica were physically, directly connected to the deep jungles of the southern continent of Australia, which is exactly why there is an incredibly high, undeniable probability that deeply similar or directly related dinosaur species successfully lived and ruthlessly hunted across both of these joined primeval continents. One of the most famous, utterly lethal Australian predatory dinosaurs is the lightning-fast Australovenator, whose terrifying fragmented remains have also been successfully and miraculously found within the freezing polar regions of the southern continent. But who truly ruled the Antarctic dark? Who was the absolute apex shadow in a world of shadows? The absolute most famous predatory dinosaur of Antarctica, whose silent, beautifully fossilized remains have been meticulously examined and scientifically described by modern researchers, is the deeply bizarre, utterly lethal Cryolophosaurus. This heavily built, deeply muscular, flesh-eating theropod ruthlessly lived and hunted in the dense, temperate forests that completely covered the isolated continent at the absolute peak of the Jurassic period, roughly 188 million years ago. A miraculously well-preserved, almost complete skeleton of this terrifying dinosaur was accidentally discovered in 1991 at a staggering, breathless altitude of 4,000 meters entirely above sea level, locked eternally within a barren, freezing rock formation. The dedicated, highly observant American geologist David Elliott was the one who initially found these ancient remains protruding from the ice and immediately reported the profound discovery, whereupon a massive, highly organized, and deeply dangerous expedition under the expert leadership of paleontologist William Hammer was quickly mounted. Within an agonizingly short, incredibly brutal period of just 3 grueling weeks, battling the unforgiving elements, the desperate researchers painstakingly extracted over 2 tons of solid, frozen rock that safely contained hundreds of precious, perfectly preserved bones belonging to this completely new, terrifying dinosaur species. In the year 1994, Hammer officially described the incredible, groundbreaking findings and formally gave the lethal dinosaur a magnificent name that translates poetically and chillingly directly to the frozen lizard with a crest. A subsequent, highly dangerous, and deeply committed return expedition in the year 2003 miraculously discovered the scattered frozen remains of yet another individual specimen, resting just 30 meters away from the icy site of the very first find. Among these newly uncovered, breathtaking bones was a spectacularly well-preserved, terrifying skull of the Cryolophosaurus, upon which completely bizarre, bony bulges and highly distinct ridges were clearly visible along its long snout. Because of this incredibly unique, highly prominent transverse crest that violently crossed over the snout rather than running logically parallel down its length, the fearsome, heavily feathered dinosaur quickly received the culturally iconic, almost dangerously mocking nickname of Elvisaurus, directly named after the famous American rock and roll singer Elvis Presley. In modern popular culture, there is even an absurd, highly sanitized episode in an animated cartoon series where friendly, brightly colored cryolophosaurs joyfully play rock and roll music at a prehistoric festival. But do not ever let this absurd, comforting fiction lull you into a deeply fatal misunderstanding of the ancient, bloody reality. In absolute, terrifying truth, this dinosaur was a monstrous, deeply bloodthirsty, and highly efficient predator. It measured a massive, intimidating 6 to 8 meters long and carried a bone-crushing heavy weight of roughly 600 to 900 kilograms. The horrifying tooth-filled skull of the Cryolophosaurus alone measures an intimidating 65 centimeters in total length, perfectly designed to snap spines and crush windpipes. Overall, it was a perfectly engineered, classical, flesh-eating theropod, armed heavily with extremely powerful, muscular hind legs and immensely strong, lethal jaws designed to effortlessly tear through struggling muscle and thick bone in the freezing dark. Picture this massive feathered phantom silently navigating the freezing, pitch-black woods of the Antarctic night. Guided entirely by heightened, hypersensitive predatory senses, its warm breath billowing thickly like smoke in the dim moonlight, as it ruthlessly hunted down its sleeping, vulnerable prey. Yet, the deep ice permanently hides much more than just one crested king. Another incredibly unique, deeply fascinating, and heavily mysterious predatory dinosaur of the ancient Antarctic is the highly unusual Imperabator. Despite possessing an incredibly resonant, profoundly powerful name that translates ominously and directly to the mighty warrior, almost absolutely nothing is actually known by the modern scientific community regarding its true physical appearance, its hunting strategies, or its specific daily lifestyle. All current, fragmented information concerning this deeply mysterious, shadow-dwelling dinosaur relies entirely and exclusively on the absolute single, lonely discovery of a fossilized left foot trapped in the ancient stone. Furthermore, the ancient, shattered bones themselves are very poorly preserved, forcing brilliant scientists to deeply and agonizingly hypothesize from the most minimal, microscopic clues. The complex biological structure of the powerful legs of this enigmatic dinosaur is heavily, undeniably reminiscent of the highly swift, terrifying dromaeosaurs that famously hunted their prey in North America. However, it remarkably and completely lacks the absolute main, defining characteristic of the entire dromaeosaurid family. It completely misses the massive, deeply terrifying, sickle-shaped killing claw on one of its toes. How does a creature officially named a mighty warrior efficiently and brutally execute its prey if it is entirely missing the legendary razor-sharp blade of its evolutionary ancestors? Another extremely important, deeply perplexing distinguishing biological feature is the vastly larger, truly monstrous foot size of the Imperabator when directly compared to its much smaller, highly famous overseas relatives. Because this completely unique, enigmatic species firmly belongs to the highly specific biological group known as Paraves, this enigmatic Antarctic giant could very well be seriously and scientifically considered as the absolute largest known dinosaur of this highly specific, bird-like type to ever exist on the Earth. Based entirely on the massive, heavy proportions of the single discovered foot, researchers carefully and nervously assume that the dinosaur reached a terrifying, towering overall body length of approximately 5 meters. Does the sheer biological absence of a gigantic killing claw imply a creature of gentle peace? Or does it horribly suggest that the Imperabator had somehow evolved a completely different, even more terrifying, and currently entirely unknown method of inflicting absolute death upon its victims in the freezing dark? How many absolute phantoms, how many mighty warriors and crested, feathered kings are still sleeping silently beneath kilometers of crushing white ice, patiently waiting for the earth to warm so they can finally whisper their terrifying, blood-soaked secrets into the modern wind? Where exactly does a nightmare truly begin? If we trace the bloody, violent lineage of every apex predator backward through the crushing weight of geological time, where do we ultimately find the very first heartbeat of a monster? Thanks to the overwhelming dominance of popular culture, the broad, theater-going public is overwhelmingly familiar with the towering, highly dramatized dinosaurs that once lived in North America. Yet, long before the first Tyrannosaurus ever drew breath, the deeply ancient, heavily forested South American continent could readily boast an absolutely massive, breathtakingly lethal variety of these primeval lizards. Many of these terrifying southern creatures stand absolutely in no way inferior to their deeply famous competitors on completely different continents. And in fact, in many critical biological respects, they far surpass them in both sheer ferocity and unimaginable size. Some brilliant, deeply insightful scientists are even of the firm, unyielding opinion that the absolute very first primal dinosaurs originated directly in those specific, ancient regions of the supercontinent Pangaea that currently constitute modern-day South America. Are we prepared to look deeply into the cradle of biological terror, to gaze upon the primordial prototypes of death? It is widely and scientifically assumed that the immediate, direct biological ancestors of the dinosaurs were the formidable archosaurs. The absolute last of these deeply ancient beings lived in the exact same violent epoch, simultaneously alongside the very first, newly evolved representatives of the dinosaurs, and they only truly died out and vanished into the stone at the violent, chaotic end of the Triassic period. The very first experimental dinosaurs barely differed from their ancient archosaur ancestors. Technically, all true dinosaurs can logically and scientifically also be classified as archosaurs. In fact, all extinct and currently living species of modern reptiles, stealthy crocodiles, and soaring birds are, in a profoundly technical sense, archosaurs, completely connecting the modern sky to the ancient dirt. However, in a much narrower, strictly paleontological sense, this specific term is universally understood to mean only the incredibly ancient basal creatures that provided the direct evolutionary springboard for all of these vastly different, highly complex developmental branches. Let us quietly observe the Marsuchus, a highly classical predatory archosaur that lived and hunted roughly 230 million years ago, directly on the territory of what is now modern-day Argentina. This small, highly nervous prehistoric reptile was incredibly modest in size, measuring only about 130 centimeters long. Its peculiar, seemingly innocent name literally translates to the Mara crocodile, with the Mara interestingly being a remarkably large, entirely modern South American rodent. It is profoundly possible that the agile, fleeting Marsuchus is the absolute direct, critical, transitional link between the older, primitive archosaurs and the far more biologically advanced, terrifyingly efficient dinosaurs that would soon inherit the Earth. Its muscular hind legs were vastly longer and significantly more powerful than its front legs, a distinct, highly predatory posture remarkably similar to the great flesh-eating theropods that would follow in its evolutionary footsteps millions of years later. Yet, despite this bipedal potential, this cautious creature probably still often utilized all four of its limbs simply for basic, everyday locomotion. Its delicate, fragile skeleton undeniably exhibits highly complex biological features that are entirely untypical for true dinosaurs, acting as a living, breathing bridge between two eras of existence. Currently, there are several highly controversial, fiercely debated findings of supposedly early dinosaurs scattered quietly across other continents. But among the officially examined, widely accepted predatory dinosaurs, the absolute oldest, most undeniable remains originate directly from the sun-baked earth of South America, having lived during the incredibly ancient Triassic period. Consider the brutal, primitive elegance of the Herrerasaurus. This ancient hunter was a rather large, profoundly intimidating dinosaur for its specific, early time. Its total body length could reach an impressive 4.5 meters, and its dense, muscular weight sat heavily at approximately 200 kilograms. Ever since the deeply transformative late 1950s, the fossilized remains of this specific predator, which fiercely stalked its prey strictly along the edges of ancient, rushing rivers, have been regularly and successfully discovered in Argentina. Today, dedicated scientists view this highly lethal reptile as a direct, terrifying ancestor of both the massive prosauropods and the predatory theropods, which tragically and violently split into entirely separate, distinct evolutionary lineages shortly afterward. The scattered remains of the Styracosaurus were initially discovered in Brazil in the year 1936, but they were incredibly and frustratingly not officially described by scientists until 4 long decades later. This incredibly small, hyper-agile, two-legged dinosaur was just slightly over 2 meters in length and stood up to a mere 80 centimeters high. Depending entirely on the specific scientific estimation, its total body weight ranged lightly between exactly 12 or 30 kilograms. This relentlessly fast, incredibly maneuverable hunter survived by constantly feeding on small, panicked animals and various ancient insects hiding in the undergrowth. In a widely broadcast documentary film regarding dinosaurs, this specific, highly aggressive species was even dramatically named as the absolute very first dinosaur to ever walk the earth. Today, however, the shifting sands of paleontology have revealed a deeper truth. It is now widely accepted that the Eoraptor, which lived roughly 228 to 232 million years ago in Argentina, is exactly 10 million years older than the Styracosaurus. This ancient, foundational dinosaur was exceptionally tiny. Researchers carefully estimate that its entire length was strictly no more than 170 centimeters, and it weighed a fleeting, delicate 5 kilograms. There is also an alternative, heavily debated scientific theory quietly suggesting that its body was actually less than 1 meter long, yet incredibly dense, weighing up to 10 kilograms. The Eoraptors, Styracosaurs, and Herrerasaurs all exhibited countless, highly specific biological features that would later logically be found perfectly refined in the apex theropods. Yet they were not truly theropods in the absolute strictest, most modern sense. They were the rough, violent drafts of nature, the first terrifying sketches of what was to come. Later, as the endless wheel of geological time turned, vastly larger, immensely more famous species of carnivorous dinosaurs violently emerged across the sprawling territory of South America. This deeply isolated, uniquely evolving continent can proudly and terrifyingly boast an incredible array of super predators, highly organized pack hunters, and utterly bizarre, unusual dinosaurs that defy all logical explanation. Consider the Abelisaurus. Although the dedicated scientists currently possess only a single, highly incomplete, fossilized skull of this specific dinosaur, it was profoundly significant enough to permanently give its name to an entire, terrifying family of carnivorous theropods that lived not only in South America, but spread across other land masses. The lone terrifying skull was carefully unearthed in 1983 in the desolate Argentine province of Rio Negro and is scientifically estimated to be approximately 85 centimeters in total length. Because all currently known, closely related abelisaurids naturally possessed a rather uniquely short, blunt head. The overall total length of this massive reptile's body is estimated to be roughly 7.5 meters, carrying a staggering, earth-shaking weight of over 2 tons. These incredibly dense, heavily armored dinosaurs lived much closer to the catastrophic end of the Cretaceous period. But does evolution always construct the perfect, aesthetically pleasing killer? Or does it occasionally sculpt something profoundly, terrifyingly grotesque? The Carnotaurus, a name that translates perfectly and chillingly to the flesh-eating bull, is arguably the absolute most famous predatory dinosaur to ever emerge from South America. Its breathtaking, miraculous remains were fully discovered in 1984, when deeply astonished scientists essentially had a nearly perfectly preserved, fully articulated skeleton of this two-legged abelisaurid dinosaur fall directly into their trembling hands. The absolute most striking, deeply unsettling physical feature of the Carnotaurus, which directly gave the beast its demonic name, is a highly characteristic, thick pair of bone horns protruding aggressively from its skull, right above its small, reptilian eyes. The true evolutionary function of these bizarre, bony outgrowths remains entirely unclear and heavily debated to this very day. It is deeply possible that they heavily protected the creature's eyes as it rammed through dense jungle brush, or perhaps they were violently used in brutal, bloody, intraspecific combat between males competing for mating rights. It is even nervously suspected by some researchers that the predatory dinosaur actively used them to directly physically attack its fleeing prey. Yet we must logically remember that prominent horns are essentially never utilized as a primary attack weapon by any natural predators in the known biological world. Another incredibly fascinating, almost absurd feature of the Carnotaurus is its deeply strange four-fingered front limbs. In stark, confusing contrast, other dinosaurs with a vastly similar overall body structure typically possess front legs with only 3 functional fingers. The front legs of the Carnotaurus, however, are so incredibly, ridiculously small in direct comparison to its massive body size that they appeared almost entirely comical, a bizarre evolutionary joke attached to a 7.5-meter long, 3-meter high, biological killing machine that weighed over 2 tons. It is highly probable that this terrifying reptile practically never actually used its bizarre front legs, rendering them a completely rudimentary, vestigial organ, slowly fading into biological obscurity. Does this strange anatomical reduction make the creature less frightening? Or does it horribly emphasize that the Carnotaurus was simply a gigantic, walking pair of bone-crushing jaws that absolutely did not require hands to kill? Deep within the stone, we also find the Erostion, a fascinating, terrifying dinosaur firmly belonging to the lethal Megaraptoran family, standing as the absolute oldest known ancient animal, completely equipped with a highly complex respiratory system, heavily similar to the highly efficient breathing system of modern birds. This profound biological connection directly earned it the magnificent, airy name translating to airbone. These incredibly active, lung-powered dinosaurs lived relentlessly in South America, roughly 70 to 83 million years ago. So far, there is tragically only one single skeleton available to modern science, but it is beautifully, miraculously well preserved and absolutely allows for deeply accurate conclusions regarding the massive size and the mysterious origin of the species. The reptile was approximately 9 meters long and weighed roughly 2 tons. Yet interestingly, the Erosteon is not directly related to any of the other massive, famous theropod lines that violently spread across the continent at the end of the Cretaceous period. Its absolute closest biological relatives surprisingly belong to the famous family of allosaurids that lived and hunted far away in North America. When we truly speak of titans, the earth trembles beneath the memory of the Tyrannotitan. This monstrous, bloodthirsty dinosaur from the early Cretaceous completely lives up to its terrifying royal name. With an agonizing total length of exactly 12 meters, a towering height of 4 meters, and a devastating, bone-crushing weight of 5 tons, it highly likely had absolutely zero competitors in its violent, bloody fight for the ultimate title of the absolute apex predator of the entire region. Yet, the evolutionary arms race never ceases. Shortly after the brutal reign of the Tyrannotitan, the Earth birthed the Giganotosaurus, arguably the absolute most terrifying, deeply fear-inducing predatory dinosaur in the entire history of South America. This monumental, incomprehensible dinosaur was over 14 meters long, stood up to 4 meters high, and carried an agonizing, impossible weight of exactly 7 to 8 tons. Its heavy, earth-shattering name literally means the giant lizard of the south, fitting this prehistoric giant with terrifying perfection. How deeply do we cling to the comfortable illusion that the North American T-Rex was the undisputed king of the world, when a beast of this impossible magnitude walked the southern earth, casting a shadow that could swallow the so-called tyrant king whole? The continent was also heavily populated by the Piatnitskysauridae, an incredibly massive family of ancient Saurischian dinosaurs, standing as one of the absolutely largest theropod groups of the entire Jurassic period. This sprawling, lethal family includes the Piatnitskysaurus, the Martiasaurus, and the vicious Condoraptor. These specific dinosaurs were roughly 4 to 5 meters long and weighed several heavy 100 kilograms, acting as the incredibly fast, highly lethal mid-sized executioners of the ancient ecosystem. And let us never forget the Megaraptor. This incredibly distinct, highly terrifying theropod perfectly differentiates itself from countless numbers of its biological relatives, primarily through its massive, deeply intimidating claws securely attached to its powerful front legs. For the highly lethal members of the Megaraptoran family, these immense, razor-sharp claws were absolutely not useless. Rudimentary organs fading into evolutionary obscurity. Instead, they were actively, violently, and efficiently deployed during the hunt to slice deeply through struggling prey. With a terrifying body length of roughly 8 meters and a heavy weight exceeding a full ton, these specific dinosaurs might have perfectly occupied a highly specialized ecological niche, acting as profoundly fast, incredibly agile hunters. A much smaller, yet equally terrifying relative of the Megaraptor was the stealthy Orcoraptor, an assassin that stalked the Earth roughly 72 to 77 million years ago in the dense prehistoric forests of Argentina. It is scientifically known entirely through a few scattered vertebrae, thick shin bones, shattered parts of the skull, and razor-sharp teeth. Scientists firmly suspect that it possessed a highly similar, deeply lethal anatomical structure, entirely comparable to its much larger cousin. Its estimated body length sits at a sleek 6 meters, while its weight is calculated to be roughly 500 kilograms of pure, fast-twitch muscle. While the name Megaraptor loudly translates to the grand, great hunter, or great robber, this highly efficient, slightly smaller dinosaur ominously received the name directly translating to the toothed river thief. Yet, it would be profoundly incorrect, a deeply flawed biological assumption, to blindly think that all early predatory dinosaurs of South America simply evolved linearly into gigantic, towering monsters that endlessly terrorized absolutely everything living on the entire continent. The Mauritia completely shatters this assumption. It is a highly distinct biological relative of the widely known Compsognathus and completely distinguishes itself by absolutely not possessing an enormous, terrifying size. Much like its deeply distant ancestors, this fragile, incredibly nervous dinosaur was just slightly over 2 meters long and weighed absolutely no more than 7 delicate kilograms. These incredibly small, fast-moving theropods lived silently during the early Cretaceous period in ancient Brazil, proving entirely that absolute lethality does not inherently require monumental size. How many distinct, perfectly evolved methods of inflicting absolute death were perfected under the ancient canopy of this single, isolated continent? Have you ever stood upon the shifting, burning dunes of the modern Sahara Desert, feeling the absolute, merciless dehydration of a land entirely stripped of all its moisture, and imagined the crushing weight of an endless river? It is an optical illusion of the highest geological order, a cruel, blinding joke played upon the modern human mind. Today, the climatic and profound geological conditions present in modern Africa differ enormously, almost incomprehensibly, from the vibrant, heavily breathing conditions that fiercely dictated life in the Mesozoic era. Back then, in the deep abyss of prehistoric time, these currently desolate, sun-scorched locations were an absolute, incredibly humid paradise, specifically and perfectly designed for the explosive, unchecked development of absolutely all types of ancient reptiles. Currently, a similar, suffocatingly humid climate can only be found deep within the incredibly dense, largely impenetrable equatorial rainforests of Central Africa, whereas during the terrifying reign of the dinosaurs, massive, sprawling areas across the entire continent were heavily and deeply covered with thick tropical jungles and completely interwoven with uncounted, winding rivers. Today, many regions of the African continent are utterly barren desert areas, meaning that modern paleontological excavations there are fiercely connected with immense physical difficulties and astronomically high financial costs. Even in the remaining deeply shadowed equatorial jungles, the actual discovery of dinosaur fossils is far more a matter of sheer, blind luck rather than the logical, guaranteed result of many years of targeted scientific work. Yet, despite the deep reluctance of the Earth to yield its secrets, scientists have successfully discovered a spectacular, breathtaking variety of vastly different saurians from the Mesozoic era hidden within the African stone. The absolute number and the overwhelming biological variety of the dinosaur species discovered here are profoundly impressive, painting a terrifying picture of a deeply flooded world ruled by absolute monsters. Let us awaken the Afrovenator from its eternal sleep beneath the sand. The very name of this ancient, perfectly adapted species translates chillingly and directly to the African hunter. This highly lethal theropod, firmly and undeniably belonging to the terrifying biological family of the megalosaurids, was miraculously discovered in 1993 in the desolate, burning sands of the Sahara, within the borders of the modern Republic of Niger. The breathless scientists incredibly managed to secure a nearly perfectly complete skeleton, heavily comprising a massive portion of the deadly skull, numerous complex vertebrae, pelvic bones, as well as the entirely devastating front and hind legs. These silent, deeply evocative remains were pulled directly from ancient Jurassic deposits, proving undeniably that they are approximately 164 million years old. The meticulous, terrifying reconstruction of the Afrovenator clearly shows that this magnificent beast possessed a menacing overall length of up to 8 meters and carried a dense, highly muscular weight of approximately 1 ton. But the ancient shadows quickly grow vastly larger and infinitely more dangerous. What of the Bahariosaurus? This heavily built, deeply aggressive flesh-eating dinosaur is widely and respectfully considered by modern science to be one of the absolute largest, most lethal hunters of its specific violent time. Its fragmented, deeply mysterious remains strictly date back to an immensely violent period resting exactly between 94 and 100 million years ago. The terrifying remnants of its ancient existence have been painstakingly made over a vastly wide, sprawling geographical area stretching entirely across the north of the continent, proving without a doubt that it relentlessly lived on the territories of the modern states of Morocco, Niger, Algeria, and Egypt. Tragically and deeply infuriatingly, modern scientists completely lack even a single fossilized skull of this colossal dinosaur, which makes it incredibly difficult to make absolute, definitive statements regarding its specific diet or its bloody daily hunting methods. Yet, with a staggering mathematically estimated length of up to 13 meters, a towering height of 4 meters, and a bone-crushing, earth-shaking weight of up to 4.5 tons, this prehistoric monster undoubtedly could have easily and ruthlessly hunted both massive plant-eating sauropods as well as other completely terrifying two-legged reptiles or heavily armored crocodilomorphs. But perhaps you deeply believe that true, paralyzing fear absolutely requires a face, a grinning, prehistoric jaw entirely filled with the jagged implements of absolute slaughter. Then I invite you to look deeply into the empty, fossilized eye sockets of the Carcharodontosaurus. This incredibly large, heavily dominant theropod from the violent Cretaceous period lived aggressively at the exact same time and actively occupied the exact same sprawling geographical territory as another magnificent giant, the Bahariosaurus. With an agonizing, terrifying body length of roughly 13 meters, a towering height reaching up to 4 meters, and an impossible, crushing weight ranging wildly from 5 to 8 tons, the Carcharodontosaurus inevitably had to relentlessly and violently compete with a similarly enormous rival simply to survive. It is deeply, scientifically possible that its highly specialized, incredibly terrifying tooth structure thoroughly explains a perfect evolutionary adaptation to a highly specific ecological niche, completely avoiding direct, bloody competition for exactly the same prey. Its heavy, deeply unsettling name translates perfectly and ominously to the lizard with shark teeth. The very first dedicated researchers who miraculously discovered this completely new dinosaur were so profoundly and visibly terrified by the massive, heavily serrated teeth they pulled from the rock that this absolute biological horror directly influenced the creature's scientific name. The very first carefully discovered teeth of this terrifying apex predator were actually so incredibly massive and structurally lethal that they were initially entirely misattributed to the gigantic legendary prehistoric shark, Megalodon. Can you genuinely imagine a 13-meter terrestrial lizard, heavy as a building, stalking through the ancient jungles armed entirely with the serrated, flesh-ripping teeth of the ocean's ultimate undisputed killer? Its significantly smaller, yet equally lethal relative, the Eocarcharia, an early Cretaceous representative firmly belonging to the exact same Carcharodontosaurid family, lived silently and violently in North Africa. Scientists currently only possess a highly incomplete skull and some violently scattered bones, but upon deep examination and direct comparison with related species, these fragile fragments suggest a killer entirely up to 7 or 8 meters long, standing up to 2 meters high, and weighing somewhere exactly between half a ton and a full ton. A highly characteristic, deeply disturbing physical feature of this swift predator was a heavy, bony ridge protruding ominously directly over its cold eyes. The evocative name Eocarcharia chillingly means dawn shark, largely due to its undisputed belonging to the terrifying family of the so-called shark-toothed lizards. However, we must logically remember that not all African killers relied entirely on sheer, overwhelming tonnage and massive, towering height. There are shadows in the ancient brush that whisper of different, vastly more ancient lineages. The Berberosaurus, a flesh-eating dinosaur deeply unique in several profound biological respects, proudly stands as the absolute earliest known representative of the entire Ceratosaurian suborder. Its invaluable, fragmented discovery directly and miraculously helped modern scientists clarify several highly controversial, deeply debated evolutionary questions regarding the absolute origin of a massively large, globally spread dinosaur group. Found completely shattered in Morocco, it lived its violent, fleeting life in the early Jurassic, and its total length is scientifically estimated to be roughly 6.5 meters. Far to the absolute south of the sprawling continent, the Dracovenator, practically the absolute only South African representative carefully detailed in our deep exploration, hunted silently in the early Jurassic, roughly 200 million years ago. This specific, highly agile theropod was not particularly massive, successfully reaching a length of about 6 or 7 meters, a height of 2.5 meters, and a lean weight of absolutely no more than 700 kilograms. It has been meticulously described entirely from a few delicately preserved skull parts, scattered teeth, and shoulder bones. Its evocative, highly mythological name deeply means dragon hunter, simply because its silent remains were found patiently waiting in the rocky foothills of the so-called Dragon Peaks. Does the towering mountain naturally name the beast, or does the prehistoric beast permanently and forever stain the mountain with its ancient, invisible blood? We also find the Elaphrosaurus, whose fragile fossilized remains were successfully discovered during extensive excavations in late Jurassic geological layers located within modern-day Tanzania. This relatively small ceratosaurian was roughly 4 to 6 meters long, stood less than 1.5 meters high, and weighed just slightly over a single ton. Because of its incredibly slender, highly aerodynamic body, its name can beautifully but chillingly be translated to the graceful lizard. Initially, upon their deeply confusing discovery, these delicate remains were incredibly even assigned directly to the early biological relatives of the modern ostrich. And what of the completely unexpected, highly social Megapnosaurus? In the extremely early Jurassic, two distinct subspecies of this specific, highly successful saurian existed actively across entirely different continents, with remains miraculously found in both the United States and Zimbabwe, showing the completely typical, lightweight physical build of the theropods of that ancient era. They boasted a body length of roughly 3 meters and weighed just slightly over 30 kilograms. It is heavily and logically assumed that the African subspecies of the Megapnosaurus possessed a highly visible, feathery crest standing upon its head, directly contrasting the North American subspecies, which prominently possessed two small, elongated, bony crests. In Africa, the deeply intertwined remains of approximately 30 individual specimens were discovered crowded violently together in an incredibly small area, heavily leading brilliant scientists to the deeply terrifying assumption that the Megapnosaurians potentially lived, and highly likely hunted, in highly organized, relentless groups. There is a completely different kind of shadow lurking deep within the muddy, suffocating swamps, a creature pieced together from absolute nightmares. The highly mysterious, little-known Cryptops was completely discovered in the year 2000, incredibly close to the ancient remains of the Eocarcharia, living exactly 100 to 125 million years ago in the dense swamps and light, humid forests of North Africa. Because the beautifully discovered fossils, heavily including several complex vertebrae, a few ribs, and excellently preserved pelvic bones, were actually found a full 15 meters away from a terrifying jagged fragment of a lower jaw. Some deeply skeptical scientists actively suspect they might incredibly belong to completely different, entirely unrelated species. In this deeply disturbing, bizarre case, the Cryptops would be absolutely nothing more than a paleontological chimera, a horrific, completely imaginary monster, completely artificially assembled from the disparate, shattered remains of entirely different reptiles from vastly different biological families. If, however, the bones truly belong to a single, terrifying living animal, its total body length could have been roughly 6 to 7 meters, and its towering height just slightly under 2.5 meters. We also find the Rugops, a deeply aggressive predator that proudly stands as the absolute first abelosaurid to ever be discovered on the continent of Africa, found exactly in the year 2000. Previously, absolutely all known biological relatives of the Abelosaurus had been strictly and exclusively discovered, either in South America or far away in India. Further stunning finds directly originate from the island of Madagascar, which was actually a physical part of the modern-day Indian peninsula at that exact ancient time. Sadly, only a highly incomplete, heavily crushed skull of this dinosaur has ever been found, meaning it is usually depicted as a classical representative of its family. Incredibly powerful hind legs, ridiculously short front limbs, a brutally short snout, and a highly muscular, incredibly strong neck. Depending entirely on the specific researcher, its length is heavily estimated at 4.5 to 6 meters, and its dense weight at 400 to 750 kilograms. And moving gracefully but lethally through the shifting river deltas was the Deltadromeus. This rather large but incredibly and remarkably slender dinosaur lived violently in the Cretaceous period, exactly on the geographical territory of modern-day Egypt and Morocco. Despite an agonizingly massive length of up to 14 meters and a soaring height of roughly 5 meters, this elongated snake-like reptile weighed absolutely no more than 2 tons. Its beautiful name directly correlates with the assumption that it lived and hunted strictly in flooded river deltas. Originally, it was heavily assumed that this species was a direct biological relative of the Megalosaurus, but vastly later researchers completely reassigned it directly to the family of the Noasaurids, meaning it is a highly close relative of the Abelisaurus, making the Deltadromeus the absolute largest known representative of its entire deadly family. But we must inevitably leave the crumbling shores and wade directly into the deep, dark, suffocating waters of the ancient continent, where the true, absolute gods of the African Mesozoic waited in absolute, terrifying silence. When you deeply imagine the ultimate, undisputed predator, do you merely see a terrestrial creature of the open, dusty plains? Or do you see a gargantuan monster rising slowly from the murky depths, completely and violently disrupting the strict boundary between land and water? Consider the Spinosaurus, universally undisputed as the absolute most famous African predatory dinosaur of the entire dinosaur era. A terrifying monster that even played a leading, violently iconic role in Steven Spielberg's cinematic masterpiece Jurassic Park. Although this massive, completely bizarre reptile ironically possessed a heavily fish-based diet, it fundamentally belongs to the absolute largest, most devastating predators in the entire bloody history of life on our planet. Various highly respected researchers estimate its incredible, logic-defying length at an agonizing 15, sometimes even stretching to an impossible 18 meters. The towering height of this aquatic giant could easily have been significantly more than 6 meters, completely supported by an earth-shattering weight of roughly 7.5 tons. The absolute defining, deeply terrifying characteristic features of this ancient dinosaur were its heavily elongated, crocodile-like snout entirely filled with conical teeth, and a massive, towering sail stretching dominantly across its back. The absolute latest, highly controversial scientific reconstructions currently depict the Spinosaurus as a fully aquatic, river-dwelling theropod entirely equipped with a heavily flattened, paddle-like tail. It is deeply, profoundly possible that this impossible creature held its massive body almost entirely parallel to the muddy riverbed, completely forsaking the upright bipedal stance of its cousins, and actively moved through the water and deep mud very often on absolutely all 4 of its powerful limbs. Its deeply unsettling cousin, the Suchomimus, another completely lethal member of the terrifying Spinosaurid family, hunted ruthlessly roughly 133 to 125 million years ago, completely across the flooded territories of the modern Republic of Niger. This massive river-haunting reptile was up to 11 meters long, stood roughly about 3 meters high, and weighed an absolutely crushing 5 tons. A profound, highly specialized biological peculiarity of this highly specific species was an even significantly narrower, heavily elongated snout that deeply and chillingly reminds researchers of modern-day gharials, the highly specialized, primarily fish-eating crocodiles living currently in the waters of Southeast Asia. The very scientific name of this enormous dinosaur translates completely and directly to crocodile-like. It is entirely biologically possible that the Suchomimus absolutely had to meticulously evolve a highly specific, deeply specialized hunting method, strictly to completely avoid engaging in direct, bloody, and incredibly fatal competition with the absolutely massive, terrifying Crocodilomorph Sarcosuchus that aggressively lived in the exact same flooded region at the exact same time. And forever hovering at the very edge of human understanding is the Cristatosaurus, an almost completely unknown and severely under-researched ancient dinosaur belonging completely to the exact same semi-aquatic family. Initially, absolutely all broken fossils associated with it were simply dismissed as the scattered remains of the Suchomimus. But a deeply transformative scientific study published in 1984 finally proved that some specific bones and shattered teeth belonged to a completely new, entirely unexplored species. What scientists once blindly and completely thought were deeply hook-shaped teeth of the Suchomimus actually turned out to be incredibly small, bony vertebral spines strictly on the neck of the Cristatosaurus. These deeply strange spines actively supported a low, terrifying crest that ran entirely along its neck and partially transitioned directly onto its long, lethal snout. Yet, incredibly, even today, some illustrators only selectively show the neck crest of this dinosaur and design the entire snout heavily similarly to other members of the family. This saurian lived in the early Cretaceous in North Africa and was roughly 8 to 10 meters long, up to 5 meters high, and weighed around 5 tons. Finally, entirely closing our exploration of the sprawling African continent is the Sigilmasasaurus, a rather highly unusual, deeply debated dinosaur originating completely from the family of the Spinosaurids. Since its fragmented, deeply mysterious discovery in 1996 in the hot sands of Morocco, scientists have intensely and aggressively debated exactly which biological family the Sigilmasasaurus should be assigned to, with some arguing it was a completely unknown Carcharodontosaurid, while others ultimately confirmed it as a highly independent Spinosaurid species. Its estimated terrifying body length sits incredibly between 12.5 and 17.5 meters, carrying an agonizing weight of roughly 6 tons. But here's the absolute, most terrifying truth of all, a truth that completely shatters our geographical sanity. Completely identical, perfectly matched fossils of this specific Spinosaur were miraculously found far across the raging ocean, deeply buried in the earth of Brazil. In the year 2015, this specific Spinosaur, which deeply resembles the famous Spinosaurus, was finally fully recognized as an entirely independent species. The undeniable geological presence of a perfectly identical Brazilian subspecies serves as absolute, unbreakable confirmation of the grand theory that these terrifying dinosaurs completely and effortlessly colonize the entire, interconnected ancient Earth. The sprawling waters did not stop them. the endless winding rivers only made them infinitely stronger and far more adaptable. Are we fully prepared to comprehend a violent, ancient world where the ultimate, unstoppable predators did not just walk the shaking earth, but swam silently through the deep, connecting the continents with a single, unbroken chain of blood and bone? When the deeply fragmented, shattered pieces of our modern globe are finally pulled back together by the quiet gravity of the past, what terrifying image truly emerges from the settling dust of millions of years? We have actively wandered through the meticulously crafted, cinematic illusions of North American plains, navigated the mist-shrouded, feathered phantoms of the vast Asian forests, and sunk deeply into the suffocating, ancient coal swamps of the Australian continent. We have shivered in the perpetual, freezing dark of the Antarctic polar night, witnessed the absolute, primal horrors awakening in the primordial cradle of South America, and drowned in the sprawling, blood-soaked river deltas of the African Mesozoic. Through this agonizing global journey into the abyss of time, the deeply comfortable, culturally manufactured illusion of a single, undisputed prehistoric king is completely and permanently shattered. The Earth was absolutely never ruled by one localized monster, acting as the singular apex of biological terror. Instead, our planet was an infinitely complex, beautifully horrific theater of continuous evolutionary war, where the absolute, uncompromising mandate of survival produced endless, breathtakingly perfect biological killing machines. Every single continent that we walk upon today harbored its own deeply unique, terrifying species of predatory dinosaurs. Among these countless vanishing ghosts, there were incredibly close biological relatives, perfectly identical twin species separated by shifting oceans, as well as highly specialized dinosaurs whose beautifully preserved fossils are only found today in vastly restricted, isolated regions of the world. But how do we honestly define what is truly the most dangerous? Is the concept of absolute biological danger simply a mathematically cold calculation of bone-crushing bite force, towering physical height, and agonizing metric tonnage? If we listen closely to the whispering rock, we quickly realize that nature absolutely does not construct an apex predator randomly, nor does it haphazardly assign lethality without a profound, underlying biological purpose. The concept of ultimate danger is essentially an intimate, deeply violent conversation between the living, breathing flesh and the fiercely unforgiving environment it inhabits. The staggering, terrifying array of lethal adaptations we have witnessed across the globe was actively, relentlessly molded by the extreme harshness of every single drop of prehistoric water and every shifting grain of ancient sand. If a heavily forested, deeply shadowed continent desperately required a silent, feathered assassin that could glide effortlessly between the massive tree trunks to deliver immediate death, the Earth violently provided exactly that. If a sprawling, highly competitive river system stretching endlessly across the equator fiercely demanded a towering, sail-backed aquatic god entirely capable of swallowing armored crocodiles whole, the dark waters immediately birthed it. A highly specialized, delicate predator entirely weighing less than a modern bird, but completely armed with hyper-agile, grasping claws, is inherently just as terrifyingly dangerous to its specific prey as a massive 7-ton titan is to a lumbering, armored herbivore. The true, absolute measure of danger is simply the chilling perfection of biological adaptation. We must critically and deeply understand that during the unfathomable time of the dinosaurs, the continents as we currently, comfortably recognize them were actively situated in vastly different, shifting locations across the restless globe. This monumental tectonic drift was the grand silent engine of evolutionary terror. The fluid, deeply connected nature of the ancient supercontinents inherently meant that the absolute most successful blueprints of biological death were entirely free to migrate, violently spreading across the cracking earth. The deeply unsettling presence of perfectly identical, massive spinosaurid fossils miraculously discovered thousands of miles apart in both the scorching sands of modern Morocco and the dense, vibrant earth of Brazil serves as absolute, unbreakable geological confirmation that these terrifying dinosaurs completely and effortlessly colonized the sprawling, interconnected ancient Earth. They were absolutely not trapped by the oceans. Rather, the oceans themselves were merely another hunting ground, another dark medium through which they could expand their violent reign. The shifting tectonic plates did absolutely not stop the spread of these ultimate killers. They only forced them to become infinitely stronger, profoundly more adaptable, and infinitely more deeply terrifying. Yet, against the staggering, incomprehensible weight of this absolute biological supremacy, a deeply unsettling silence now completely blankets the Earth. Despite their magnificent, perfectly honed physical adaptations, despite fiercely and undeniably ruling absolutely every single corner of the globe for hundreds of millions of agonizingly long years, they are entirely, permanently gone. All the towering crests, the violently serrated teeth, the razor-sharp sickle claws, and the massive earth-shaking footsteps have completely dissolved into the cold, uncaring bedrock. The exact, staggering number of vastly different species that violently lived and silently died over such impossibly long periods of time on our changing continents remains a massive, beautiful riddle whose absolute, ultimate solution we will highly probably never truly experience or fully comprehend. What does it mean for our own fragile existence when we look down at the dirt and deeply realize that absolute, unrivaled power offers absolutely no permanent protection against the slow, creeping extinction of geological time? It is a deeply sobering, paralyzing realization to gently brush away the topsoil of our modern, civilized world and touch the crumbling fossilized remnants of a fallen empire. We proudly build our towering concrete cities, our sprawling interconnected highways, and our quiet, peaceful homes directly upon a massive, silent graveyard of unimaginable proportions. The scientific understanding of the magnificent, terrifying dinosaurs we have carefully described could very easily and rapidly change with the absolute next turn of a shovel. And countless more profoundly interesting, completely unusual biological species could instantly be added to the ever-growing, blood-soaked list of prehistoric predators. We have barely scratched the shallowest surface of a deeply buried world. Africa alone, with its sprawling, inaccessible deserts and dense equatorial jungles, undoubtedly still heavily conceals countless, deeply terrifying secrets permanently connected to the glorious time of the dinosaurs. So, we must return to the very first question, standing alone at the edge of the human imagination. Which continent was truly home to the absolute most dangerous dinosaur ever to exist? The chilling, profound truth is that the entire breathing planet was a singular, unbroken monument to death and glorious survival. There is absolutely no single continent of terror, only a complete global architecture of beautiful violence. The next time you quietly step outside into the calm, gentle night, pause for a breathless moment and feel the dense, solid earth pressing firmly beneath your fragile feet. How many nameless, absolute monsters, how many perfectly evolved, feathered phantoms and towering gods of the ancient abyss are currently sleeping silently in the pitch-black rock directly beneath you? If the modern Earth suddenly decided to yield absolutely all of its hidden, fossilized bones at once, would there even be enough open ground for us to stand upon? The ghosts of the apex predators are absolutely everywhere, waiting patiently in the dark, forever listening to the heartbeat of a world they no longer own.